There was a moment when one single token turned a modest crypto position into something that made my hands shake when I opened the app. We're not talking about a lucky lottery ticket here. We're talking about a calculated, thesis-driven bet that either meant early retirement or a very humbling lesson in humility. The token was Solana, and back in early 2021, most serious investors were still laughing at anything that wasn't Ethereum or Bitcoin. But something was brewing underneath the surface. A quiet engineering story that the market hadn't fully priced in yet, and that gap between perception and reality is where the real money lives. Think of Ethereum at that time like a 6-lane highway that got so popular it turned into a parking lot, with gas fees so high that sending $20 worth of tokens cost you $40 in fees. Solana came in promising 65,000 transactions per second at fractions of a penny, which sounds like marketing fluff, until you realize Visa only processes around 24,000 transactions per second on a good day. The thesis wasn't crypto go up. That's not a thesis. That's a prayer. The real argument was that if decentralized applications were ever going to reach mainstream adoption, the infrastructure needed to be fast, cheap, and developer-friendly. And Solana was quietly becoming that infrastructure, while everyone else was distracted by dog coins. Now, let's be honest about the optimism that was in the air, because early 2022 looked like Solana was going to eat Ethereum's lunch. With NFT volume exploding on the network and billions pouring into its ecosystem. Then, the FTX collapse happened in November 2022. And Solana didn't just dip, it fell from $180 all the way down to $8, which felt less like a market correction and more like a public execution. Sam Bankman-Fried's empire was deeply intertwined with Solana. And when FTX imploded, the market assumed Solana would be collateral damage permanently. Here's the irony though. The same community that the market wrote off as dead spent that brutal winter building, shipping code, and quietly onboarding developers who actually cared about the technology, not the token price. Crypto has a historical pattern that's almost embarrassingly predictable in hindsight. Boom, euphoria, catastrophic collapse, and then a slow, grinding recovery that rewards whoever survived the despair phase. The dot-com bubble saw Amazon fall 90% before it became the everything store. And the people who held through that agony are the ones who ended up in a different tax bracket. One of the biggest misconceptions about high conviction plays like Solana is that believing in something means going all in, and that is how you blow up your financial life. Position sizing is the unglamorous, undiscussed backbone of every successful investing story you've ever heard. And the real thesis only works if you're still in the game when it plays out. The practical lesson I carried into this trade came from a mentor who said, never size a position so large that being wrong destroys you, or so small that being right doesn't matter. Solana was sized as an asymmetric bet, meaningful enough to move the needle, small enough that a total loss wouldn't crater the overall portfolio. What actually happened was that Solana climbed from that $8 graveyard back past $200 by late 2023 into 2024, and the thesis cheap, fast, infrastructure winning developer mindshare played out almost exactly as written. The token didn't just survive the narrative destruction, it came back with receipts. But here's what we don't talk about enough. The psychological torture of watching a position drop 90% while everyone around you says, "I told you so," is a test that most investors fail, not because they were wrong, but because they couldn't tolerate the discomfort long enough to be right. Conviction without emotional discipline is just stubbornness wearing a tie. The philosophical takeaway isn't buy Solana, the token could be anything in any market at any time. The framework is what matters. Find a genuine gap between market perception and underlying fundamentals. Size the position so you can sleep at night, and then let the thesis breathe without checking the price every 20 minutes like a nervous parent. Discipline, sizing, and consistency built the position. Patience protected it. And process, not excitement, is what separated this outcome from a gambling story. You can be completely right about an idea and still lose everything if your bet size and timeline don't match your actual risk tolerance. There's a certain freedom that comes from accepting that markets are irrational in the short term and rational in the long term. It means you don't need to be a genius. You just need to be patient, prepared, and honest about what you actually know versus what you're guessing. We can be comfortable with any outcome when the process was sound, because a well-reasoned loss teaches you more than a lucky win ever could. And hey, whether you're building wealth through tokens, real estate, or anything in between, we can help you get started, whether it's real estate investing, home contracting, work, or finding lenders. Just check out our links in the description below.